and welcome to My Fellow Idahoans. I am Chad Inman, and I'm honored to be sitting in for Jim Thomas today. And I'm sitting here, and I'm honored to have as a guest Dwight Calloway. I am excited that you're here today, Dwight. You and I met several years ago at my first Tea Party Boise event down at the State House. Right. And I went there looking for answers, solutions. And there were 3,500 people at the park that day, and very crowded, lots of signs. Everybody just got done walking from Ann Morrison Park. And I go down there on my lunch break. I couldn't do the full walk, and I run across you. You, out of that entire crowd of 3,500 people and those hundreds of signs, had the only solution on your sign that I could find. Right. And like I said, the solutions are what I was looking for. Right. And you have been in this area for quite some time, and in addition to that, you've been working on this solution that you do have. And I'm going to let you tell a little bit about yourself and what, in general, your solution is.
Okay. I came to Boise in about 1992, and I came here specifically to do what I call jury education on an issue called jury nullification. Now, I did it full-time for about 3 years, and then, much to my regret, I burned out. But I've remained interested in that issue, and I've done a lot of writing on the issue and other related issues since then. So it is my hope and my prayer that other organizations today, such as the Tea Party, will become interested once again in jury nullification and jury education, which is the best single solution out there by far that a conservative or a libertarian or even an honest liberal will find to solve the problems that face America. Specifically the problem of government abuse of power, overspending, bloat, too many bureaucrats, too many regulations, too many laws, and the usurpation of our freedoms and liberties.
Well, very good. We have a lot of issues going on today, and when we sit down and we talk about possible solutions and what would be the best, obviously the jury and the system of justice that we have, or the Justice Department, is 1/3 of our government. And jury nullification has a long history.
Right.
Could you tell the viewers today a little bit about jury nullification?
Sure.
And how long it's been around and stuff like that?
Jury nullification has been in the English system since 1214 with Magna Carta. Jury nullification, the definition of jury nullification, or what it is the jury's right and their power to refuse to enforce the law. Even if the defendant says that he admits, or the jury knows that the defendant broke the law, if the jury feels that the law itself is wrong, that the law itself is anathema or obnoxious for free people to live under, if they feel that the law is stupid or wasteful or any kind of reason like that, they can say not guilty. And when all 12 jurors agree, there's a unanimous verdict, and that is called a jury nullification. Now, jury nullifications began happening in England in the 12th, or the 13th, the 14th century. At that time, poaching a rabbit on the king's forest was a capital offense. That means death penalty. And jurors refused to convict because the punishment was way out of line with the crime, and the crime was really not a crime anyway. Since then, there have been several famous trials, and by the way, people can go on the internet and Google or Yahoo search the term history of jury nullification for about a 2-page blurb that gives all these examples and then some more. History of jury nullification. In 1670, in the William Penn trial, William Penn was a founder of Pennsylvania. He was also on trial for his life, and his crime was preaching a Quaker sermon on a London sidewalk. And the reason they were on the sidewalk is because the sheriff's men had locked him out of his own church. There had been religious liberty in England, but this was during a time when there was religious tyranny. So the next William Penn won that case, and that case gave England freedom of religion and freedom of assembly. And it also had a big change in how jurors were treated once they nullified the law. Up until that time, jurors were punished summarily, 3 days in the clink with no food, nothing but bread and water. It was just the judge being spiteful. Since then, no juror is ever punished for a jury nullification. In America, in 1735, there was a trial that gave the American colonies freedom of the press and freedom of speech. It was a jury nullification. In the 1850s, the fugitive slave laws were jury nullified, and some historians have said if the Civil War had been postponed for a while, these jury nullifications were making slavery unprofitable because slaves could run away and they could not be caught, or anybody that helped them could not be prosecuted. In the 1880s, jury nullifications gave labor unions the right to strike. So I hope that my friends in labor unions will remember this. I'm a conservative Republican, libertarian, and your right to strike came from this power that I'm talking about, jury nullifications. Because at that time it was a felony for a labor leader to walk out on the street and say, boys, we're going on strike. You'd be prosecuted 20 years in jail. The next wave of jury nullifications, major wave, was during Prohibition. There were 1 million prosecutions. Prohibition was a constitutional amendment. Unlike the war on marijuana, Prohibition was actually a constitutional amendment, far senior to the statutes that are prosecuted. And juries nullified or hung. A hung jury is like jury nullification light. They hung on 500,000 of them. And the only reason that Prohibition did not go down very quickly is because what I call the church ladies, the equivalent of the little old ladies in tennis shoes, the anti-saloon movement, the anti-liquor movement, had been ramping up for like 3 generations to get Prohibition in. These ladies believed in their hearts, and God bless them, that liquor was the root of all evil. And we can see, a lot of people can see how they might have felt that way. But the thing is that it caused an explosion of crime in America, and it wasn't working. So juries nullified the law, and eventually, in some states, very quickly, but in other states, they still prosecuted for several years. But anyway, jury nullifications killed Prohibition. Since then, there have been various and sundry jury nullifications. So,
it's been around a while.
Jury nullification is inherent within trial by jury, and I need to say something on the other side of that. If you talk to your family or your business lawyer, first of all, he doesn't know anything about jury nullification. He doesn't want to know anything about jury nullification for reasons that we don't have time to go into during this short show. However, the legal establishment, let me just say this. The world that I envision, what I call a jury revolution, there will be half to 3/4 of the lawyers that are in existence today will not be able to make a living being a lawyer.
Well, that's quite a jump there from jury nullification to a jury revolution, and what you state
Right.
in what the outcome of that's going to be for the legal establishment today.
Right.
What is a jury revolution then?
Okay, before I get to that, let me explain what the judges do today. The judges are guilty of jury tampering in criminal trials. If the case is a law that is a stinker, is one that the prosecutor and the judge know to be unpopular, like a marijuana law, or some kind of law or some kind of situation where there's an extenuating circumstance, they basically engage in jury intimidation, jury tampering, extortion, and since they're all doing it, we call that conspiracy, as in criminal conspiracy. All 4 of those things are felonies. And it is my assertion, and I am ready to debate with relish any judge or any lawyer anywhere on that issue. And there's a lot more jury educators like me.
Wow,
I will be happy to debate the judges on whether or not they are committing jury tampering and the other crimes that I just laid out. So it is a problem now for jurors to successfully nullify because they are being bluffed and tricked into surrendering their right to nullify the law. We know the jury has the right to nullify the law, by the way. This is another lie that judges tell. They say, well, juries have the power to nullify the law, but they don't have the right to. Well, here's the deal. If the jury successfully nullifies the law, in other words, if they don't believe, they call the judge on his bluff and they go ahead and nullify, they go ahead and find the defendant not guilty, even though he actually did the deed. He broke the law and he, cut his lawn where there was an endangered mouse or something and it was an EPA law and they said not guilty. The guy's trying to protect his house from a grass fire. Or if he carried an unregistered or illegal gun or something like that, and the jury said, well, he's a nonviolent guy, he's just expressing his rights. If they do that, then the jury cannot be punished. If you can do something in open court, right there in front of the judge and a bunch of cops and bailiffs, in front of God and everybody, and they can't punish you, then you have the right to do that. And so it is one more blatant sophistry for them to say that the jury doesn't have the right to nullify the law. By the way, John Adams, our second president, I got the quote right here in front of me, I don't even need to look down at it. He said it's also the jury's duty to refuse to enforce the law in violation of the judge's instructions, or in violation of the instructions of the court. And the court means he's referring to the judge. So we have lists of quotations from our founding fathers, from the greatest jurists, from our greatest judges throughout history, affirming what I'm saying. And what judges today have is a handful of lies. They will not debate. They will not come out in public. How about we get a judge that will sit here, right here, and we'll have another show? I would pay a chunk of money to the judge just to come out here.
Well, those are some pretty strong accusations there, and I understand that you've worked for many years on substantiating each of these claims. And I also understand that when someone, there was a recent article or story regarding the gentleman at TSA, at the Transportation Security Agency in Washington.
Yeah.
And he walked up to the gate and whipped off all his clothes after being accused of having some nitrates being detected on his body, just to prove the point that he does not carry any weapon of mass destruction or is not a terrorist. And then when they were showing the actual trial of this gentleman, it was in front of a judge.
Right.
Now, that may be one case where the citizens that are sitting in the jury box would say, listen, this guy was just doing his what he felt he needed to do right then.
Right.
Would a jury nullification work in that circumstance?
Yes, with this caveat. I'm not familiar with exactly how the TSA laws and regulations work. By the way, I refer to them as training